I'm excited about this episode of the Elite Recruiter Podcast. I have my friend, Brett Eaton, who is a high performance coach and has helped many entrepreneurs and other business owners out there become the best possible people they can be. And I know we're coming into year 2023. 2023 could be an extremely difficult year, but whether it's difficult or whether it's easy as a pie, making your plans to be the best person and get the most done in 2023 is so important to having a successful year. So Brett, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Benjamin. I'm excited to be here, man. Thank you for having me on.
So want to kind of jump into your background a little bit. How did you get into coaching?
Yeah, so I feel incredibly grateful that I am one of those people that my journey has taken me to what I feel I'm supposed to be doing. And I just feel the gifts that I have and all the lessons I've learned and the education that I have has set me up perfectly to be a high performance life coach. And I was in the fitness industry for a long time. Was in the fitness industry for over 12 years. And that kind of led me to step out of fitness and start coaching people in the other areas of their life. I was going to start coaching people in the other 23 hours of their life. And I just started to see great success with the clients that I was working with there. And I just saw a whole new level of fulfillment from my side of waking up every day, the conversations we were having. And since then, it's just kind of grown. And now I specifically work with high performers and just making sure that they are not only continuing to grow, but creating a life that they actually enjoy and that fulfillment is part of their success chase.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and just jump right in. 2023.
Yeah.
How do you set yourself up to have a successful year?
The first thing is I think you have to have some goals and targets. And actually, I have this little acronym that I think is perfect for people in the beginning of the year. Most people, the year comes around, they're all the New Year's hype, they're getting excited, and they hope that they're going to have a good year, right? A lot of people sometimes, whether it's career, business, family, they've gotten a little bit better just because it kind of happens naturally. You work a little bit harder, you stay at a company longer, sometimes you get a raise. Well, I don't like people to hope. I want to make sure that we have a good year. So rather than hope that we have a good year, I have an acronym, HOPE. We're going to the first part is H. We have to have a goal or target. So H stands for have a goal or target. You need to know what you're going after. You would never have a really important meeting, get in your car to go drive there and start driving without the address, right? You need to know where you're going so you know what turns to make. And that's the biggest mistake people have is they get in January mode and they're like, I'm just going to do it all. I'm going to adopt all these habits, but they don't really know why. Why do we want that? Why is that goal or target going to significantly better your life? And you can use that in your career. You can use it in your relationships. You can use it in your health. You can use it for planning more vacations. But just having that goal or target is going to set you up for where do we want to go. The O, Benjamin, stands for organization. We got to organize our life. And what that means is we really need to take a look at what is going on. What are we doing well? What are we not doing well? And really take a step back and say, how can I streamline some of these things? Organizing is not just actually your setting and your workspace and your emails and the tabs that you have. It's not just that, but it's also organizing your life in a standpoint of really getting kind of clear on what you want out of life. And then are you living that way to go get it? A great question for people to ask is not just what you want out of 2023, but who do you want to become? And if you can ask yourself who you want to become, what you need to do tends to get a lot easier and tends to be a lot more clear. So ask yourself, who do you want to become at the end of the year? Then when you look at your goals, ask yourself, are all of these goals going to help me become that person? If yes, great, you're going in the right path. If no, some of those goals might have to get changed or might get removed. So that's the O. The P is prioritize. Prioritize is all about where our time is going. And when I start working with a client, the first thing I do is ask them what their priorities are. What are the 4 to 5 most important things in their life? Most people, Benjamin, tell me my health. Most people tell me my family. Most people tell me my business career. Most people tell me 1 or 2 other things. And then I ask to see their schedule for the month. And what happens is I see a lot of work meetings. I see a lot of business meetings planned. I see a lot of, business work. I see Zoom calls. I see all this. I don't see a lot of workouts planned. I don't see a lot of dates with their wife. I don't see a lot of, time with their kids. And the reason why I say that is a lot of people are like, well, I don't need to schedule that stuff. I'm going to ask you why not? Because I promise you're not missing your Zoom meeting but I bet you've pushed off a date with your wife, and I promise that you probably could maybe be spending more time with your kids if you want that. And your workout should be on your calendar also. I don't care if you share your calendar with 40 employees. I think it sets the right tone for the type of company that you want or the type of business that you want by having that time on there and showing everybody that that's a priority. Here's the other thing, Ben. It is accountability when everybody in your company can see that you have a workout at 7, right? Don't call me. I better be at that workout or the whole company's going to know. And the E is execution. And most of the people that I work with have gotten where they've gotten because of execution. They've gotten to that point because they just execute at a really high level. But if we actually take the time to have a plan or target, organize and prioritize, the execution actually becomes easier because we're executing in the right places. Not just executing everywhere, but make sure we're executing in the places that we should be.
Oh, that's definitely good. I got a bunch of questions to ask on all that. So
Yeah.
before I ask those questions, like goal setting. Like how many goals should you be looking at for the year and in what categories?
I would suggest it's different per person. And of course, like how experienced you are in this goal setting process. But I think less is more when it comes to goals. I think people assume that if I have more goals, I must be more driven. If I achieve more goals, I must be more successful. But the problem with that is it's kind of like juggling. Most people can juggle one ball, toss it up and down and catch it, right? Without problem. Most people can probably do 2. But if we go from not juggling at all to trying to juggle 10 balls, what happens is we end up, even the easiest first ball still ends up on the floor. So I ask people to really get clear on what you want and be okay maybe only having one goal per month, right? 1 or 2 goals per month. And if you still do that, you're still going to end up with 12, maybe even 24 goals over the course of the year. But just really get tight on what you want. And more importantly, why do you want it? I think we get caught up in the status game and we get caught up in the comparison game where we hear a friend or we hear somebody on the internet have a goal and we're like, ooh, I want that. That sounds good. That would make me feel good. But we don't actually realize the work and the sacrifice and the time and effort that it's going to take to get to that goal. And then when we get, all of a sudden we end up just beating ourselves up for not accomplishing it.
The age of social media makes it super hard. You see, like, the highlights of people's lives, the success, like all day long on your news feed, on LinkedIn and Instagram and TikTok. Like, staying focused on your goals is so hard sometimes.
It is incredibly hard.
Well, when it comes to like the tools to help you be successful and the tools to help you hit your goals, what's out there?
Yeah, I'm going to keep it real simple for people. You just need to have your goals written down. There are apps and there are spreadsheets and there are notebooks and there are, like, I don't know about you, but like I've definitely gone through my share phase of like brand new notebook, new year, clean page. And like I have all these notebooks with like 10 pages written in it and the whole rest of it's empty. But while that's okay and why I appreciate the new notebook, it's more important that it's somewhere that you are that's going to be easily accessible and that you see often. If you love spreadsheets are probably a great place for you. If you hate Excel and never want to see it open, then that's probably not the best place to put your goals because there's already a resistance there. Put it somewhere that you can check it. I believe that most people don't check in on their goals nearly enough. The people that I work with, we check it in on weekly. Weekly, we are assessing on those goals. For most people, maybe monthly is okay, but I don't believe anybody should ever go past Q1 without a full assessment of their goals. That is too long. That's basically, I'm not a swimmer, but if I was going to go out and I was going to swim a mile, I don't like to open my eyes. I have sensitive eyes, so like I'm going to close my eyes. But if I just put my head down and start swimming and don't pick my head up for a mile, there's a really good chance that I'm off track. Right? But if every 5 strokes I pick my head up, I'm going to make sure that I'm going towards the destination that I want, and I'm going to end up, more of a straight line than I would be. Now, some people are going to say, well, picking your head up every 5 strokes is a waste of time. You know what's a bigger waste of time? Swimming a mile in the wrong direction. So really think about it from a standpoint of, can you check on your goals more often so that you keep yourself accountable and also you can make those small little corrections?
You keep on like kind of highlighting without saying it, accountability.
Yes.
Like, how important is having somebody to be accountable to, or is some sort of accountability to hitting your goals?
I would say it's the most important thing. If we think about why most people are successful at their job or career, there is so much built-in accountability. There's the built-in accountability of you wanting a paycheck. There's the built-in accountability of most people are on some sort of team or have clients that need something from them. So there's the accountability of doing your job correctly so that you can help the other people. There's the accountability of having to face a boss or manager. There's also the accountability of we don't want to get fired. So there's so much built-in accountability there at work that just happens naturally. We don't often have that when it comes to our health and wellness. It's really just on us. I said I was going to go, and then do I go or not? Nobody knows if I don't. Nobody knows if I do. There's not that much accountability in our other areas of our life. So having some built-in accountability, and I believe that that's where coaches come in. That's where having those people that it's their job to keep you accountability. There's no better place to start than there. But even having somebody that you know is going to call you out on your BS is helpful. I don't believe that husbands and wives are best for accountability, and I don't believe that best friends are best for accountability. Why? Because their main priority is to see you happy. So their job isn't to call you out. Their job isn't to cause friction. Their job isn't to rub you the wrong way or give you tough love all the time. Your coach's job or your boss's job or your manager's job is to do that. So having somebody where it's more likely for them to call you out and you're more likely to want to perform because you don't want to let that person down.
That's good. So you deal with a lot of like high performance business owners, a lot of high performance entrepreneurs, athletes. What are some of the traits that set them apart?
There's a few, and this list continues to grow the more I work with different people. But for one, they are good at making decisions. And I want to clear up what I mean when I say good. Good doesn't always mean you make the perfect decision. Good often means a timely decision. You know when to make that next decision, when not to. You also don't sit on the fence very long. High performers make a decision and they start going. The more you sit on the fence, you're just wasting time. And oftentimes you think you need more data. You think you need to consume more information. Oftentimes you could sit on the fence for a month and you're in the same hard decision, right? So get the information you need and then make a decision as quick as possible. Another characteristic or trait of a high performer is they are brutally honest with themselves. They don't BS themselves very often. If they're not doing something that they need to do, they're not talking themselves or convincing themselves of how hard it was or how great they're doing or, man, I'll do it tomorrow. It's like they're brutally honest with themselves about what they're doing well and what they could be doing better. And I'll give you one more is they're not afraid to ask for help. High performers, people often think that they have it all together. High performers ask for more help than anybody. And when I say ask for help, they ask for help with accountability. They ask for help when it comes to doing tasks that they're not good at. They ask for help when it comes to planning or when it comes to making a big decision. Is they have their counsel, their board, their friends or family that they ask for decisions. I could go on and on with there, but I'll leave it at those three. And I think it could be helpful for people listening.
I think that's good. Jump back to goals for 2023. Like, what are the kind of things that can derail you from reaching your goals?
Number one is just not checking on them, right? It's just not checking in on them enough. Is writing goals and feeling all inspired in January. But if I ask you February 5th, hey, what are your goals for the year? If you have to be like, oh, let me go find that notebook, that's not a good place. That means that they are not on your mind and you're not acting on them daily. We want to make sure that we're acting on them, daily. And really, the question you need to ask yourself is, what do I need to do today? If you can answer that question for each of your goals, you are probably already in the 90 percentile of people who are going to accomplish that goal. If you can't answer that question and you say, I have a goal that I want to accomplish by July or by April or by whatever date, if you can't answer the question, what do I need to do today or this week to get closer? You're going to be spinning your wheels because you don't have an action item. You don't have a way of getting closer. You're back in that first category of, I just hope I make it or I hope I get there. So you really got to make sure that you check in on that. And then just, I'll go kind of a side route here is I think people fall into this trap of, or there's this misconception that people are motivated one way. This is my motivation and it's going to be my motivation every day for this. I believe we need to have like a suitcase or a backpack full of motivation, and it's going to change every day. For instance, I was going to go for a run the other day, right? Woke up, I live in San Diego. People say, oh, sunny San Diego, it must be so nice. I don't always check the weather in the morning because it's going to be a little cool. It's going to be fine, but it's not going to rain. It was raining the other day, pretty hard. And I had that decision of, okay, well, my motivation isn't just go for this nice, beautiful run anymore. My motivation has to be deeper than that. It needs something else today because it's going to be raining, my shoes are going to be wet, and I'm probably going to be cold. So you need to have multiple motivations to get to the same destination. So I don't believe in the like, oh, I'm just motivated internally or I'm just motivated externally. I think over the course of a year, you're going to need a lot of different motivations. So be okay with finding the motivation that works in that moment. All that really matters is that you do what you're supposed to do today.
So I want to jump into something that you've mentioned. And I know I didn't bring you on here to talk about health and wellness, but I believe health and wellness is in a very important part of hitting your goals. And, in the recruiting industry, we're high stress. There's lots of things going on. There's lots of chances of, we're dealing with people day in and day out. That's all we do. But I've seen over the years, unfortunately, many people like in their late 30s, early 40s, having heart attacks and just being super unhealthy. How important is health to hit your goals?
I would, again, I tend to be extreme here, but I would say it's the most important thing. I don't think people give enough credit to, everybody talks about time management. Not a lot of people talk about energy management. And energy management doesn't just come from your health. It comes from your sleep. It comes from what you eat. It comes from what you put in your body. It comes from what you do outside of work to recharge your batteries. It comes from alone time. People don't talk about that as much, but I'll give you this. You could have 20 goals or 20 tasks that you need to accomplish this week, right? But if tomorrow you wake up with the flu, you now have one task: get healthy, right? Everything goes off the table when you are not healthy. So, obviously we want to try to handle a lot of things before we get to something as serious as a heart attack. But I don't think people will always trade, oh, I'll just kind of trade my workout or I'll trade whatever, I'll do it tomorrow, but because I got to get the work stuff done. But they don't realize that is like a coin in the bucket of I'm one step closer to being unhealthy. I'm one step closer to to getting sick. And that is where accountability comes back in, where at work, there's accountability. So guess what? We do it even when we don't want to. A lot of times in people's wellness, they don't have that same accountability. Again, that's what, a personal trainer is a great place to start, but even a coach or somebody that knows your workout schedule or your plan can keep you accountable to that because it's now written down and somebody else knows about it.
And I'll just say for me personally, I wasn't unhealthy, but I was feeling like I needed to be better with my health. And I ended up hiring a coach last year, and the joys of having an Apple Watch, everything I do automatically gets put into her coaching program, yes, whether I like it or not. So if I skipped a workout, guess what? It shows up. Or if I skipped a mile on my run, that shows up. So I'm like, crap, I have to go do that 7 miles today.
I love it. And you're a runner, right, Benjamin?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. So do you ever find, what helps you to get into a run on a day where maybe you don't want to?
So running for me is a habit. It's easy. It's something that I don't think about, but I just need to kind of take it up the next step. I was a college athlete many, 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 many years ago. I think almost 2 decades now, unfortunately. But, got injured, got unhealthy for a while. And then really I think it was during COVID, I just started doing a little 5-mile loop around Arlington and my goal was to just do that 5 days a week. And that became such a habit that I didn't even think about it. But to get, more healthier, because running's easy, doing stuff like strength training and cross training, I hate that with a passion. I had to actually hire a coach and, thank you, Beth, and just be accountable for her.
Yeah. Two things you said that I want to point out is, one, you said it wasn't a decision, it was a habit. That's why habits are so important. And the same way early on when it comes to habits, it may feel hard to get it going. It's just as hard to stop a habit as it is to get one going. So when you get a good one going, it's really hard to not do it. I always talk about water being such a simple health habit, and drinking a gallon a day is not necessarily easy, but you get to a point where your body almost feels more weird when you don't drink the gallon than when you do. So your mind, body, even the visual of just seeing the bottle on the table, it's so much easier to do it because it is a habit.
Awesome. Going to flip into recruiting. So people early in their career, if you were chatting with as a high performance coach, chatting with a recruiter that just started his career, what kind of advice would you give him or her to succeed?
Anybody starting out, I have this saying called it's the ABC method. Action builds confidence. A lot of times people are looking for the confidence to start doing more, to start doing better, to start doing these things. And we think that the confidence comes first. The confidence actually comes after the action. And if we think about it that way, we're actually more comfortable not feeling confident in a situation. Because if we use that analogy, we're like, I'm not confident because I haven't taken enough action. That actually makes sense, right? Those dots connect. So if I want to be more comfortable recruiting, or I want to be more comfortable getting on calls, if I want to be more comfortable reaching out to companies, I have to take more action. And guess what's going to happen to my confidence? It's going to start to increase. So for those new recruiters out there, I would say take more action than you think you should, and your confidence is going to increase. And that's the only difference between you and experienced recruiters, is they've taken a ton more action. So they're way more confident at their craft.
And same question for experienced recruiters. There's a lot of us that are good decade, 2 decades into our craft.
Yeah.
And, it's tough to, keep on hitting goals, or you finally realize that you want to hit bigger goals. What advice would you have to them?
I would use the advice of, most people understand that there's a lesson in the losses, right? When they lose, or they don't get a deal, or they don't close something, you can understand that there's a lesson to be learned there. But I believe the top of the top performers, they don't just learn from their losses, they learn from their wins as well. When you do something well, asking the question of how could that have been better? Or how could I have done that more efficiently? Or how could I have done that in less time? How could I have done that smoother? How could I have made that process more enjoyable for the client or the recruiter? When you ask those questions, what you realize is you're actually always giving yourself chances to up level, not just when you lose. Because people who are really good at what they do, they don't lose as much. And actually, I was listening to a podcast with Steph Curry from the Warriors, and he was talking about this concept of, if, when they were winning and they had that season where they won 73 games or something, he was like, it's very easy to be like, we have nothing to improve on because we're winning all the time. But after every game, they would watch film just like they would if they were losing. And they were actually harder on themselves later on in the season, because they were finding that if we can be harder on ourselves, we're not only good now, we're getting better and better and better each time we win. Which is way different than most people's mindset of like, I won, it must have been perfect, let's move on. So I think that's a concept that everybody could benefit from.
I think that's great. So question for you.
Yeah.
What's a quote that's had a huge impact on you?
I love quotes. I'm a big quote guy. But one that I tend to live by is, it's a Maya Angelou quote, and it's, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And while originally that quote hit home for me in my personal life, it just kind of led me the way I want to lead my life and live my life. Something that I pride myself on is good energy. When I walk into the room, it is my responsibility to up-level the energy of that room, up-level the positivity of any room that I walk in. And I don't just try to do that on a podcast or in a party setting, but I try to do that with every individual that I come in contact with. And at first, people can be like, is he really like that? Is like, that's really what it's like. And I want that to be the case. But to me, that has really helped me in business, and I didn't expect it to, is I want my clients to understand that there is a care there. I'm not always going to tell them what they want to hear. And a lot of times I give a lot of tough love with my clients. But the most important part for me is that they know where it's coming from, and that they know that I'm doing that because I want them to feel like I am their biggest cheerleader, that I am rooting for them harder than anybody, and that I want them to get the goals that they want, just as much as they do. So people will forget what you did, people will forget what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel.
So true. On that same note, is there a book that's had a huge impact on your entire career?
That's a tough question. I would say that the Start With Why is a great book from a coaching standpoint, a Simon Sinek book. I would say that book is packed with value from a standpoint of everything we do in life, and to go back to the first question you asked about goals for this year, is if you can't really clearly define why you want something, and when I say clearly define, if you can't get clear on why you want something more than you want to avoid the challenges that are going to come, again, the run, if I didn't want that run more than I wanted to stay dry that day, there's not going to happen, right? So knowing why you want stuff, and I believe that book is great, not just for business, but why do you want a great relationship with your spouse? Why do you want to be a great father or mother? Why do you want to make more money? And that question, like ask that 5 times. Why do you really want to make more money? Just because you're supposed to? Just because you're supposed to make more this year? A lot of times with clients, they'll say something along the lines of like, I have my goal is to make more money, and I'll dig with them. And not that I don't want them to, trust me, I want my clients to make more money so that they have no problem keeping me around. But I'll challenge them, why? And sometimes we get to the point that it's not actually more money that they're looking for. They're looking for less stress. They're looking for more vacations with their family. And sometimes we can create a plan that doesn't involve more money to get them to those same goals. So understanding why we want something can really help you get clear on what you're going after.
Awesome. And I know you're around the high performance across the board. Is there any other books that you'd recommend that you think are awesome?
I love, actually, I'm going to pivot here, and I'm going to throw you for a loop here, is I actually believe conferences are massive for growth. And whether that is a conference in your industry or a conference of just whether it's high performance, people chasing greatness, people looking to do more with their life, is a conference I would almost say changed my life more than any book. My first conference that I went to, I just remember totally expanding my mind. I was surrounded by people who were thinking the same way I did. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel weird for thinking the way I was. And I didn't feel like the outsider for wanting more out of life or not wanting to settle. And I remember just driving home from that. And that was a catalyst to a lot of the big changes that I've made in my life and career.
Awesome. No, and getting around people, whether you know them before, or don't know them, but people that are moving forward is such an energy that it really does take you places.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so, and this is a question that I ask everybody, so be prepared.
I like it.
If you could go back to yourself, early career, what advice would you sit down and tell yourself?
The first thing I would tell myself would be stop worrying what other people think. I start to realize that we live so much of our life and we make so many decisions for other people when, not to get morbid here, but most of those people are not showing up to our funeral. And we make big life decisions with those people in mind out of fear of failure, fear of letting other people down, fear of judgment, what other people are going to think. And if I could go back, I would just remind myself that my life is mine and that my gravestone is only going to have one name on it. And that's really the person that I need to live for. The second thing I would tell myself is you don't have to choose finances or happiness. I think a lot of times growing up in the fitness industry, we were kind of drilled that we're doing this because we love it and that we weren't doing it for the money. And I remember I heard that just one too many times, and I was finally like, this is BS, man. Why do we have to choose? I know plenty of people who are doing what they love and still making a good income doing it. And I remember that was the beginning of the end of my time with that specific gym. I know there are plenty of people in the fitness industry making great income, but it's all about how you do it. And I believe you can make an income doing absolutely what you love and what your purpose is. You just have to find it.
Awesome. Well, before I let you go, Brett, is there anything else that you would love to share with the listeners?
Yeah, I think a lot of times people overestimate what they can do in a day, and they underestimate what they can do over a week or over a month or over a year. And we too often let days slip by. We too often say, I'm a little bit busy today, tomorrow's going to be better. And that really compounds itself, and it becomes really easy to have a bad day turn into a bad week, turn into a bad month, turn into a bad year. For anybody listening to this, Benjamin, who maybe didn't have the best 2022, before they just roll in and again, hope things are going to get better. I would really ask them to go through that hope exercise and determine what is going to be different this year. Maybe my targets weren't so clear. Maybe I wasn't as organized in my life and my finances and my relationships as I could have been. Maybe I was saying things were priorities, but they weren't lining up with where I was actually spending my time, my finances, my energy, and who I was around. And then lastly is am I executing in the right spots? James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, says it's less important how you execute or how you spend your time than what you're spending your time on. So, you could be the best at washing dishes and you could be the best at creating Instagram reels and stuff. But if that's not where you're supposed to be executing, that's going to hold you back more than how you do something. So that would just be my last, little piece of advice for people is don't get overwhelmed early in January. Remember, it's a long game. A year is long, but we got to make each day count.
And one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on, I know January 1st, rah, let's hit the goals. But by about mid-month, it's worth reassessing and relooking at everything. And if you haven't actually finalized your goals, spend some time this week. Break it down, think about it, prep for it. It's the only way to really get ahead in 2023 and make sure you make it the best year.
And I would also add, the only thing worse than not having a goal or target is having a goal or target that you are not actively excited to pursue. So for people, halfway through the month or even February 1st, look at those goals. And if you took 0 steps towards that goal, rather than just beating yourself down and constantly feeling like a failure for not going after it, maybe you actually decide that it's time to take that goal off. Maybe that's not a goal for the first half of this year, or maybe that's not a goal for this year. Be okay removing goals that you are not actively excited about. And I think it's a huge confidence boost when we're actually going after things that we want, as opposed to beating ourselves up for going after things that we don't actually really want.
I was trying to let you go a second ago, but I know that's something that we spoke about, I think a few months ago. I was actually just beating myself up for something that I didn't have time to do. Mm-hmm. And business was great. XYZ was happening. And I was literally beating myself up on a habit that I just probably would have taken me away from my goals. And I was just well, I didn't do it again. Didn't do it again. And and you finally were just delete it. And I'm like, wait, what?
I give you a ton of credit for that, Benjamin, because it's not easy to do that, but your self-awareness, and again, you for me, because of that, you fall into that high performance category of knowing when to put something aside. And you were so self-aware to be I actually believe that that's a 2023 goal, not a Q4 2022 goal. And what that does is that removes things for your plate so you can actually give more energy, more time, more finances to the things that actually matter at that time. That takes a lot of courage to be able to do that. And it also takes a lot of self-awareness. So hopefully people are learning from that statement there and being okay, being you know what, that's actually the goal for later on this year. I'm not going to consume myself with that right now.
Awesome. Well, Brett, I just want to say thank you much for coming on the Elite Recruiter podcast. And for the listeners, I know I got some major value. I hope you did too.
Excellent. I really appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on.